Very good evening and welcome back. It's Thursday evening and it's time, for us to talk about building productivity mindset with myself, Kalpesh, and with Sagar Amlani, the productivity explorer. So welcome, Sagar, and thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome, Kalpesh, and thank you for being with me for so many episodes. Today, it's the sixth episode, and the series is Building Productivity Mindset to Achieve Autonomous Work Culture. We are going to have 10 sessions. This is the sixth one, so four more to go. And if you have been with us for this sixth session, you would have known the value that we have added. If you have missed any of the sessions, you can find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Wonderful. Great, Sagar, and I think I should compliment you, Sagar, with the amount of thought process and the experiences and real examples that you're bringing to table. The audience has been very engaging, and the kind of comments that we see from people on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn, I think that's very promising. So let's begin with starting to look at what we spoke last week and a quick recap about first time right. And just before I hand it over to you, Sagar, Mohit, very good evening and thank you for being with us. We appreciate you being there, listening to our conversation. Look forward for more engagement. Stay tuned, and there's a lot more to take away from today's session. So, Sagar, over to you for a quick recap on the first time right.
Absolutely. Before we move on to the first time right, Kalpesh, let me just give a recap to everyone about the episodes that we have done. It started with the introduction of building productivity mindset. We differentiated between what is being productive and what is the importance of having the productivity mindset, which then carry forward for standardization. The second episode, we continued with 5S as an approach, then creating accountability, leading to can quality be inspected? And after that, we came on to first time right. And today, we're going to have the mistake proofing or Poka-Yoke as a topic. So, going to the last topic that we had, which is first time right. Yes, as we hear the word, it sounds funny or it sounds non doable, but it is actually doable. We took the example of a pilot landing an aircraft. Now let's assume that a pilot is flying it for the first time. Is he allowed to make a mistake? The nurse, who is a first time nurse, is she allowed to make a mistake while switching the babies? No. We expect them to perform perfectly. So first time right is the concept which eliminates this double standard to ensure do not accept defect, do not accept any deviation. Why do you need first time right? It saves you money, time, resources, and also loss of brand is saved by implementing first time right. Now, how can you make things first time right in your organizations or within your own self? All you need to do is be aware of what is customer requirement. Be aware of what are customer specifications. Be aware of what is required from you to do that job as an individual. Second, identify. Identify what are the tools and techniques. Identify what are the various methods by which you can do that work. And M finally leads to measure. Measure what you have done because as you keep measuring, you keep improving. We all know everything that can be measured can only be improved. If things cannot be measured, you cannot improve them. Last but not the least in the thing is standardize, which brings us to AIMS, aims. The aim is to have first time right. And that's the recap of our last session.
Wonderful, Sagar. That was beautiful, and I think some examples from real life that you mentioned about the first time right. They're so relevant. You know, it's like if I deposit my money to the bank, I want them to be first time right. Or today, for example, there's so much of dependency on this digital payments and GPay and
Yeah.
Paytm to every shop that we do where we want to do cashless transactions. Scanning the code and the right account number popping up is so important and significant. And there are millions and millions of transactions happening every day. And if that part is not taken care of, I'm just imagining of how how it will disrupt the entire thing.
Chaos.
Yeah, it will create a tremendous amount of chaos. So it is very significant, and I think like once I'd read that the aeroplanes, the flights, they operate at about a 12 sigma level. While we just talk about 6 sigma into manufacturing and services,
Yes.
the airlines operate at a 12 sigma because that's the level of safety that you're expecting. And I think today the way the industry is evolving, the way the processes and policies are being put in place, uh, industries operating at a 12 sigma or a 16 sigma will not be it looks like a possible thing in the
Yeah,
near future. Yeah. So
absolutely.
great. So I think with that, I think Sagar, it's time to move on to today's topic. So while a ticker keeps saying mistake proofing and Poka-Yoke, so let's talk about why may I request you to introduce the topic for us today.
So the introduction of this topic, or this was actually the Poka-Yoke term, was termed by one of the best process engineer, or you can say the industrial engineer at Toyota, Mr. Shigo Shino. Sorry, it's a Japanese word, so I misspelled it. It's Shingo. So he
Okay.
was an industrial engineer at Toyota, and in 1960 is when he termed this thing as Poka-Yoke. Earlier, it was used as Baka-Yoke, which is also known as foolproof or idiot-proof. But it doesn't sound nice to speak that way, and hence the term was changed to Poka-Yoke, which also means mistake proofing. And why is it so relevant for us to talk about Poka-Yoke in today's session is because we have just completed talking about first time right. Now, you can only do first time right by implementing a system of Poka-Yoke, which will help the people and the processes to work right the first time by making it impossible for the mistakes to happen, which means we are trying to build in a system, we are trying to build in a process for people in such a way that it will be very, very difficult for them to do a mistake. And that's where it's also called as mistake proofing. Now, the term mistake proofing and impossible would again raise questions in some listeners. So let me just give one simple example. The heart that we all carry, Kalpesh,
Hmm?
is nature's example of Poka-Yoke.
Okay.
Now, let me pull something for you and show it to all the listeners here. Now, we all
Yeah.
know this is the diagram of our heart, right?
Hmm.
So what is a Poka-Yoke in this basically is there are four walls in the heart, two walls for incoming and two walls for outgoing. The heart functions by pumping in the fresh blood, the blood which is full of oxygen from the lungs that is received, and it also absorbs the blood from all the arteries which is lacking oxygen and pumps it to the lungs. Now, while it's doing this job within the four walls, the beauty is it never makes a mistake of pumping the deoxygenated blood to the body and oxygenated blood to the lungs. By doing what? The walls, if you see in the photograph, are actually very, very similar to NRV, which is non-return valve. So that is nature's system of Poka-Yoke built in our body. So if somebody tells me that Poka-Yoke is not relevant, or Poka-Yoke is not used, or Poka-Yoke is very difficult to implement, I would always tell them to look at their own heart. You are a running, living example of Poka-Yoke built by Almighty, which means that Poka-Yoke has been there, will be there, and always will be with mankind unless and until we become robots. And the funniest part is even the robots will have a built-in Poka-Yoke.
Right. No, I think what you said is very correct, Sagar, because A beautiful example of the heart, because which is related and something that probably we don't know. But I think people who study this science and who understand the entire philosophy, it is so much of of that Poka-Yoke built into things around us, within us
Yes,
and around us. And we all have a mechanism of using that system. For example, i
absolutely.
know i know that when I'm stepping out of the house, there have been instances where I would have forgotten my keys. Now what I've done is I have built in a Poka-Yoke where right just besides the door, the minute I open the latch, I have my key ring there. So I cannot miss that for whatever reason. And for so many years now, with that practice, I've never missed, or I've not been in a situation where I'm stuck outside the house.
Yeah.
Small example, but some things that have built into our system on a day-to-day life.
So taking the similar example, Kalpesh, and building on what you just said, I just want the listeners to type in their comment if they have experienced this in their life. How many times you go out of your house, you sit in your car, and you try to work? How many times have you again thought, have I switched off the stove or not? Have I switched off the fan or not? Is the geyser in the bathroom switched off or not? We all have this thought, right, Kalpesh?
Perfect, perfect.
Right. So Poka-Yoke ensures that right conditions exist before the process step is executed. I'll repeat it again. Poka-Yoke will ensure the right conditions exist before process step is executed, thus preventing defects from occurring in the first place. Now, the same example, if I have to give you, today there are valves or there are knobs which are available and given by certain companies that the gas cylinder, if it's on for a certain period of time or if there is any leakage, it automatically shuts it down. There are sensors given by companies like Prixel. All you have to do is fit that sensor on your bathroom, and if there is no movement in the bathroom or in the living room or anywhere for like 5 minutes, it will shut down the light, fan, and even the geyser. Now those are some Poka-Yoke examples, which means Poka-Yoke performs a defect detective function, eliminating defects in the process as early as possible. So Poka-Yoke is actually prevention and detection. There are two ways to do a Poka-Yoke, and the need for doing Poka-Yoke is only to ensure mistakes are not being made. And if mistake is being made in certain areas, the detection is at such a higher level that the mistake does not reach to the customer. Always remember, it's not that the mistakes will not happen after Poka-Yoke is implemented, because there are certain areas where you will not be able to eliminate the mistake, but definitely you will be able to detect the mistakes. So those are the things where you will have to have differences. For example, the USB. I'm sure we all have a USB pin in front of us. That USB pin is a simplest example of detection, or we can also say it highlights you and it helps you to understand the details. Now, as you can see on the picture here, Kalpesh, the
Yeah.
USB that is provided has got that blue or the white thing, which is only to indicate which is the right side. We sometimes feel confused and we sometimes feel annoyed that, why I have to check this every time. But that is only to ensure that the plus and the minus coordinates are not being crisscrossed, because the minute that happens, you might lose data. Now, they've also come up with even a better technology, which is more of this type, which is the C type. Yes, we all have the C type now, or even the Apple one. Now, that helps everyone, and they have taken one stage further. They have eliminated the fatigue that is caused in the customer's mind or the consumer mind of thinking to put which side is right. So these are the levels of Poka-Yoke. This is one simple example of Poka-Yoke. So we talked about there are two types. One is prevention, one is detection. In this talk, we are also going to, I will also share the 6 principles of Poka-Yoke, and we will also, give a detailed example of each principle where it is used. But to start with, it's mainly of two types, which is prevention and detection. So here the USB is actually preventing the user from making that error.
Yeah, perfect. So, Sagar, well said. And of course, as organizations, as leaders today, we talk about building a lot of Poka-Yoke into the systems that we use. And I think, as we keep sharing more examples, it will become clear because, one of the things, I came from services background. And when I went to learn my Six Sigma and Green Belt, the first impression was that, yeah, this is very relevant when it comes to either an engineering or a product, or or something that is on a big scale. But there are very, very critical and very good examples of how this can actually be used even in a service provider kind of a system. And I think that'll be interesting to explore the ideas and suggestions, or examples, or where it can be used.
So let me share that example, Kalpesh, not of service industry, but I would still say of manufacturing. But this is a water bottle, right? We all have some kind of a water bottle with us. This cap, if I drink with this in a car, which is moving, I have a chance to spill that water. So a simple Poka-Yoke that is there built in this bottle is they've made the mouth smaller. All
Yeah.
you have to do is, and there's no spillage at all. So, those are very, very simple examples. Now, coming on to a service industry. So, there was one area or one company where I was, consulting them, and the point that they had is everybody had to report at 6:30 a.m. in the morning because the shift starts at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. Now, there are two ways to do is Sam down Dandabhed, the Chanakya Niti, that if you don't come on time, you will lose pay cut. Or I could have told them that, if you don't come on time, you will have a half day LOP and all that. But that is like putting compulsion. A simple Poka-Yoke that we did was you can only enter till 6:30. After 6:30, the lock is the lock doesn't open, right? A very simple thing. Now that also leads to discomfort. The second thing what we did is everybody who comes in at 6:20 or 6:25 gets a 400 rupee coupon that they can use in the canteen to buy anything that they want. Now that coupon was not equivalent to that money, but we had put a value to that coupon, but that was 400 points. And now when you got 400 points, you use wherever you want it. And then the next level of Poka-Yoke or motivation thing was that if somebody comes for 20 days continuously at the right time, which is 6:20 to 6:25, his name or his photograph will also be put on the wall of fame for attendance for that month. Now what happened is, see, we already discussed earlier that every one of us is like a schoolboy. We are still kids and we love to get gifts. We love to get acknowledgement. We love the way appreciation is done by the management. So rather than building a negative Poka-Yoke of, shouting them and doing that, this is one way of doing that Poka-Yoke. And that's one example. You can also have in service industry that when you type in your email address or login ID, we all experience that we have to punch in our password. Now imagine if there was no password, I could have known your email address, click on it and it opens. So the Poka-Yoke is that you have to punch in the password. Now the next level in that is you have to punch in the right password. The next level is when you create your password, it tells you that you have to use one special character, one numerical character, and one caps. And that will not allow you to set the password unless and until you've met this criteria.
Yeah.
So this is a built-in Poka-Yoke at different levels.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's probably known in different names as well. So, right, what you actually said, Sagar. So, whether you talk about aversing risk, or you talk about being proactive or you talk about building safety measures in what you're doing. But I think at the end of the day, what you're talking about is building that control, either in a way to prevent the error, or to detect the error when it happens before it reaches the final customer. And I think that's what is significant.
Absolutely. Absolutely bang on. We need to detect and control the errors before it reaches to the customer because in every single scenario, wherever we are talking about building the productivity mindset, it's all related with customer in mind. Now, while you have brought this conversation, Kalpesh, I would also love to share who is the customer? Is the
Mhm.
person who is buying the product is the customer or the person or your colleague at the next station who is taking the product, the WIP that you're giving him is a customer, right? So every single person who is in the line of even the WIP or somebody who is going to take the product from your desk, from your workstation to a next workstation becomes your customer. Right now, all the 21 speakers on YouTube, all the nine listeners on LinkedIn, all the 4 listeners on Facebook, they are our customers.
Yeah.
If we keep that in our mind, that will bring out the best in us. Not every customer needs to pay. The customer can also add value. Now, their comments, their love, their appreciation is a gratitude for us, Kalpesh. And that's what we have to believe in. That when you talk to somebody, your subordinate, your colleague, everybody becomes a customer. So you need to ensure that you do first time right and you implement different examples of Poka-Yoke in your life. So let's talk about the two areas which I called about prevention and detection. So
Mhm.
we talked about one example of preventing an error, right? The USB, the design of the USB is one example of preventing that error. Now let me give you one example of detection. Let's say you have switched on the AC, right? The AC has automation, but some ACs or sometime it would be that it would have an indication in a industrial thing where the hooter would come up when the temperature is achieved. So let's say there is a chamber and the chamber is set to go to a temperature of 300 degrees. As soon as that temperature is achieved, it starts giving you a hooter. The same example is at the oven in the house, the microwave. If you put the microwave for a preheat temperature, as soon as that is achieved, one, the heat wave closes, but at the second time, it also gives you a chim, ting, which is an indication or a detection that this has been achieved. Please attend it and resolve it. The same way, the washing machine. If the washing machine does not get water, or if anybody wants to try, please feel free to try this. Tomorrow morning, switch off the tap to your washing machine and switch it on. You will get an alarm from the washing machine as a beep sound. And that beep sound is an indication that something is wrong and it tries to call you near you. And the minute you open the tap, the washing machine will stop making the noise. And that's the beauty of having a Poka-Yoke for detection. So one is prevention, that making system to prevent the errors. One is to have detection because the washing machine does not have the hands to switch on the tap, so there is a detection mode. Not every time we can have automation or not every time we can have prevention. So that's where we have two stages of systems. One is going to be prevention, one is going to be detection. Now having said that, Kalpesh, is there something that comes to your mind in terms of detection that you would have experienced in your life or your career? Something
There,
just
there,
random.
there are many examples, Sagar. So, for example, when I used to work in a business process services unit, and we used to be on calls with customers. So our team, we had about 300 people at any given moment of time who'd be speaking to customers. And look at the technology, which was so advanced, where we used to have the 100% call recording of all these people. In that call recording, and we used to have the services of Nice, and I'm happy to acknowledge them for the kind of technology they bring to table. That Nice used to be the server that we used to use, and in the enhanced services that they provided, the team leader would have a screen open. Any of these 300 people, if the tone in which they are talking to the customer or the words that have been used seems to be not in compliance with what they are supposed to do, the color of that screen will go red. For which
Wow.
associate is it? So we directly would then, and then it had the remote capability. So I would be sitting at my desk, and I can directly log into that person's ongoing call and start listening to what is happening there, or would also have the capability of switching over that call or getting that call disconnected. So the question is that that's how technology is gone with regards to the whole analytics, insights, and measures to ensure that you detecting the problem right when it's happening before it causes the damage. So I think that's something which we used and which we saw how we can actually implement. And while these are systemic controls, Sagar, I want to actually ask a question to all the audience. So Shilpi, Mohit, Mayur, all of you who are here, I actually want to ask you, more than the examples, tell us one area of your life where you think you have a challenge, and let us explore together. Let's participate and explore that what are the possible ways that you can build Poka-Yoke in that area of your life, be it in your office or be it in your be it in your professional career or your personal life. And let's look at what are the explorations that we can do for building Poka-Yoke there. So Sagar, I just want to make it real
Absolutely.
for the audience to actually look at real life where you can do it. It's not always a
Absolutely.
scientific way.
No, as we started, Kalpesh, we are all living examples of Poka-Yoke. If you feel that you don't know Poka-Yoke, have your right hand and place it over your heart. That's where is Poka-Yoke. It's in your heart, right? So the thing that is there in your heart, that every single time it beats, it will remind you, Poka-Yoke, 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 right? So you can't go wrong on Poka-Yoke path. So let the people type in their thoughts. In the
Yeah.
meantime, let me share three things where they can build Poka-Yoke, or using those three techniques, they can identify where to put in the Poka-Yoke. We will definitely come to the six principles, but the
Yeah.
three things are: first is physical contact, the second one is fixed values, and the third one is motion steps. Now, these are the 3 points which can be used to identify the need of Poka-Yoke. Let's talk about the first, physical contact. Now, I have got, let's say, two pens. One is a thicker one, the one is thinner. Now, if I would have these two caps as go no go gauges, basically it's about go no go. The pen here would be loose, it'll fall off, and the pen here in this lid will be the right one. So the Poka-Yoke that can be built at an industrial level. Now this I've given as a pen lid, but in an industrial example, if they are creating a tool which has to be 8 millimeter in diameter. Now every time if they have to measure the 8 millimeter diameter, it's going to take a very long time. So what we do, Kalpesh, after the lathe, the conveyor passes through a ring, and that ring has got a diameter of 8 mm, which means when the rod is passing through that, if it is not 8 mm, it will be detected and it will get stuck. So this is also called as a physical contact. The second example of physical contact is the RTD, which is remote remote temperature detection, or something I'm missing that, radiation something. So it RTD basically means you detect a temperature using that gauge, which is also called as RTD, and that is in physical contact with the oil or the fluid or the water. The third example is the flush in our bathroom. Have you ever worried that once you have flushed the tank, will it overflow? We don't worry about it, because if you can open today, or if you want to try and open it today, you will find the Poka-Yoke is there is an arm with a balloon, and that balloon is connected with the tap at the back, which means if the water is not there, the handle goes down and the water flows out.
Yeah.
If the water is up to the level, the balloon will come up or the bubble will come up and the water flow will stop. So that's a simple, very, very simple Poka-Yoke mechanism that we all have in our bathrooms. So these are the three examples of physical contact. Going
Beautiful.
on to fixed values. Let's say if somebody has to take medicine for 5 weeks. Now he does not take medicine every week, but he has fallen sick and he has to take medicine for 5 weeks. God's grace, nobody should fall sick right now, but we're just giving it an example. How do you remember if you have to take a tablet every day and if you don't have an habit? Simple thing is, have a tablet box which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and fill the tablet for every day, and every week you replace it. Of course, by seeing the box itself, you will know that you've taken the tablet today or not. You don't have to remember it. And that's a fixed value. Now, this in an example of an industry is in our industry itself, we have to put 3 stickers on every roll. So, what we do, we have started procuring stickers in a strip of 3 stickers in each line. So, the operator knows that he has to empty the line before he moves on to the next roll. Now, the second stage of detection on that is the barcode scanning happens also on all 3 stickers. If there is one sticker miss, the roll doesn't move. One more example, while I also come from the automotive industry, Kalpesh, there is a tray given to the people who are on the assembly line, and that tray contains the nuts and the bolts to be fitted onto the car. And every tray should be placed onto the car for the next assembly point, the empty tray, and the person on the next point will take the empty tray and put it aside and put his tray on the job, which means the minute he sees that one nut is not there or one nut is still in the tray, the defect is identified, which means the fixed values, if there are 6 nuts to be put on the thing, put it there. Yeah, we've got an amazing example by Mr. Subramaniam. He says nowadays strips come with number in some cases. This is a very good example, Kalpesh, that the companies have taken one step ahead for making life easy for their customers, which means Poka-Yoke also enables customer satisfaction. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful example, Mr. Subramaniam. Thanks a lot for this amazing example.
No, and I think
So
Sagar, what you're just mentioning, no, I think what could trigger in my mind with that you said. So I never had this habit of keeping or using my task list. It would always be about on my brain, or I had this habit of writing it down on the book. And a lot of times, what happened was, I would either miss out on something, and there will be a lot of dependency on me to remember that whole thing to happen. So one of the practices that I have started doing is I have downloaded Microsoft Tasks. The minute, even if I have to respond to a WhatsApp later on or send an email to somebody, and I have built a practice that anything that I have to do, or complain about the geyser not working, or send an email to somebody, or do any preparation, I put all of that onto my Microsoft Tasks, or and put a reminder with that. So it also gives me the time that I need to remember that. And I think, touchwood, I should acknowledge this, that In the last, I think, 7, 8 years that I started using it, Sagar, knowing all the invoices that you pay in the month, or mailing or doing all the tasks that you need to do, I think I would probably be running at a 98, 99% accuracy. And that's the Poka-Yoke that I have built into my life, because the problem was that I sometimes used to forget things. So now, if it's on my task list, it will get done, and I don't, uh, what do you call? I don't rely on my memory to do my things. So I just thought I'd share this example.
Brilliant, Kalpesh. Now, this is exactly what I want all our listeners and viewers to understand, that Poka-Yoke as a term might seem a jargon to you. Poka-Yoke as a concept might seem very difficult to you. But if you look back to your own life, you will be implementing Poka-Yoke every single day. Not everywhere, but in certain tasks, which means you are already the master of Poka-Yoke. What me and Kalpesh are doing here in this series is we are actually igniting that fire within you to bring out that mindset that let's implement Poka-Yoke in every single process that we do. Let's implement the Poka-Yoke in every single task that we do. So don't worry if you don't know the term Poka-Yoke. Always remember your Poka-Yoke is in your heart. And if that's there, you are the master of Poka-Yoke. You have implemented Poka-Yoke, and there's nothing difficult in a Poka-Yoke system. The third point that brings us is I've talked about the physical contact, and somebody helped us, Sachin Raut helped us finding it on internet saying resistance temperature detector, which means the resistance goes up and down, which helps the temperature to detect using some kind of an internal mechanism. Thank you, Sachin, and helping us out with the full form. Now, coming on to the physical contact, we have discussed, fixed value, we have discussed. Now comes on to the motion steps. Now, let's remember, when we have to put a nut, a bolt, and a visor. Kalpesh, I'm sure you would have experienced this, or many of the people who have are listening would have experienced this, as we don't do this on everyday basis. But sometimes when we are doing a DIY project in the house, 98% of the time we forget to put the visor. And then when the leak starts, we recall something is missing. So what happens is we again remove, or second it would be happening is whenever we're putting a wire in the plug, what happens most of the time, there is a round ring which has to go before the plug is inserted. Most of us, we forget to put that ring because it's not relevant. The mind is only focused on wire, the plug, and the nuts. And that, my friend, is what Poka-Yoke needs. There has to be a sequence. So what we do in our factory, the things or the nut and bolts and the visor are arranged in the tray in a sequence, which means I will take the nut first, I'll take the visor first, place it, and then take the bolt and have it. Or in the reverse order, I'll take the bolt first, put the visor and the nut. So this is a motion step, which means you have to have Alt, Control, and Delete. You can't have Alt, Delete, and Control. If you want, you have to have Alt, Control, and Delete. Or second way is you cannot put your password first and then your login ID. You have to put your login ID first and then the password. So, Poka-Yoke is almost everywhere. Yeah, Michael, you're very right. Frequency, vibes, intuition. Yes, Michael, perfect point. So these are the three areas, Kalpesh, which helps us to identify what kind of Poka-Yoke would be done. Either it will be a physical contact, a fixed value, or a motion. So let me share one or two examples for giving this thing. Here, let me show you an example of the wires. Now, Kalpesh, imagine if we have these wires and if I would have told you to do the wiring, but I wouldn't have given you the color code of positive, negative, and the neutral. How easy it would be.
I am sure I'll create a chaos. I'm coming from a non-engineering background.
Yes.
I will create a
So
chaos.
right. So this is one example. The second example is, we have got ample numbers of wire. Now we are all going virtual. We have got virtual setup at our home. We have got audio cables. We have got video cables. We have got charging cables. People are now having two VGA monitors and the green screen at the back. Imagine if this were not color coded.
Yeah, you'll go crazy. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I'm sure every single listener has used these cables without even knowing or having the knowledge that this is Poka-Yoke. So now I just want to reassure everyone, Poka-Yoke is not something very difficult. Don't get afraid from the term Poka-Yoke, because that's what I come across many times when I go on the shop floor with the workers, and when I start talking about Poka-Yoke, the straight response comes is, "Saab, hum log ko ye sab samajh mein nahi aata." Because they have that fear that साहब हम लोग इतना पढ़ा लिखा नहीं है. That's the main term that they always come up with. And this is the example I show them the example of even the battery toys in our the toys that we use, the pencil cell. The spring is always on the flat side, and if you try to put it on the reverse side, it does not go in. Even in the pens that we use, Kalpesh, if you would have observed, I might have a spring. I can show it to you if in case I have. No, it's not there in this pen. But normally we have a spring which is broader on one side and smaller on the other side. And the
Yes.
reason why it is broader on the other side is because if you observe carefully, the refill has two ribs which will hold the spring, and the
Yes.
pen at the front has got a smaller ring to hold the spring. So Poka-Yoke is everywhere. I think Shilpi has given a very good comment, and I would like to just bring it on. Pandemic times has brought work-life balance at Frazzle. Any thoughts around it for work-life integration? Kalpesh, would you like to answer it?
Shilpi, I glad that you're asking this question because real life scenarios is what we want to deal with. Building productivity mindset is not for only a shop floor or only for for something outside there. It is for us to build in our own selves. So I really do not know on what kind of a background you are at or what profile you manage. But Shilpi, I'll just say out of the suggestions that I do with my people, okay? So one of the core things that we do or we practice is that make sure we've done an agreement with our bosses or with our people. 9 o'clock in the evening is where I switch off from the WhatsApp or from office emails, and I start that same at 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, this is one example. I'm sure you'll have your own ways to do that. But I think one of the Poka-Yoke things there is to set expectations. Because when you're talking about your availability 24 by 7, that's where the problem happens. So that is one. Second, whatever tasks that you have, do you just keep on doing those tasks, or do you block, do you put those on calendars, and you know that okay, today in a day if I have 10 hours or 12 hours of work, what are the things I'm going to do at which time? Now if you start doing that, it will start helping you become organized. Now of course you'll need to follow the discipline to do what is scheduled for you to do it. Now, if you don't follow that schedule after putting it on calendar, then you'll still keep going for a toss. So the whole question is, more
Yeah.
than
So I think we are
strategy.
experiencing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sagar. Are you able to hear me? Hello, Sagar. Are you able to hear me? Hello, Sagar. Are you able to hear me?
Hello. Yeah. So sorry, we are back. Sorry, Kalpesh, there was an internet glitch at my end.
Sure.
So
No problems.
thank
I
you for
understand.
explaining that, Kalpesh. And we also have Shrikant who is talking about that work-life balance is a myth. Shrikant, sorry to disagree, but I disagree with a grace. I have a complete work-life balance. Because what is work-life balance is what we have to understand, dear Shrikant. It's about you setting expectations, as Kalpesh has said. Now, if you make your work as life, of course, you balancing it in that way, because maybe as an entrepreneur, you will say that I live my passion and I'm doing it by my passion. But then, of course, you need family time. Your family needs you. You would be giving certain times to your wife, kids, mother, father, parents, and that's exactly work-life balance. So, anyways, let's come back to Poka-Yoke, Kalpesh, and take it
Right.
forward. So we also have one more example from Sachin Rao, the magnet to detect and
And
remove metal parts. Go on, Kalpesh.
No, no, great. Go ahead, Sachin. So I just wanted to thank Shilpi for the question, and I hope it helps. For others, please keep putting your questions, and let's look at how we can help you.
Absolutely,
Sagar, over to you.
absolutely. Michael, yes, we lost a connection for a while, and we are back, Michael. So thank you very much for being patient and being with us. So now talking about the six principles, Kalpesh, which are the most important principles in Poka-Yoke. The first principle talks about elimination. You need to understand the elimination is the best way. Now, how you can eliminate is by automizing or putting an automation in that process. The second stage is prevention. So if you cannot eliminate it, prevent it. Prevent it by having go-no gauges or having guards around it. The third is by having replacement, which means that if there is certain process step which is not preventable, or which is not able to eliminate the issues, or which is not able to eliminate the problem, it is better to replace that process by automation or by some other process step. The next is to facilitate, which means the color coding that we showed you is facilitating the problem of having the Poka-Yoke in place, which means error proofing, facilitated by using color coding. The fifth one is detection. Ensure that we put sufficient amount of sensors, sufficient amount of detectors, which can help us detect the problem. The last, which is not the best, but is mitigation, which means that if you cannot avoid that error, at least have prevention for it, which is in this pandemic time, we cannot avoid the coronavirus. So what the doctors are doing, they're wearing the PPE kit. When you're driving in the car, collision sometimes might happen. You might have the ABS system, you might have the anti-collision system, you might have the sensor systems, but something from the other side can cause an harm. So what they do, they give you airbags. So these are very simple examples of implementing and understanding the Poka-Yoke system. But if you really want to understand how to implement it step by step, it's very simple. Identify the operations of the process, analyze using five eyes or the fishbone that why this process fails. Identify the root cause. Then select the right principle of Poka-Yoke. The principles that we referred are elimination, prevention, replacement, facilitated, detection, and mitigation. Once you have done that, test the method, see if it is working, and if it is working, train your operators, standardize the process, and your Poka-Yoke is in place. You have implemented your Poka-Yoke. To know more about such more Poka-Yokes and find out more details, you can connect with me or Kalpesh. The email address is right here. And anything that you want to know more about Poka-Yoke, we are always there. Now,
So,
to summarize, yes, Kalpesh.
sorry. So, Sagar, I have a request is on behalf of everyone. Those six principles that you just spoke about, after the live session is done, would request you to put that on the comments. So I think let the audience have those principles with them.
No problem. To facilitate it again, I'll repeat them. Elimination, prevention, replacement, facilitation, detection, and mitigation. Elimination
Mhm.
is the best, mitigation is good. So always start from eliminating, because the minute you have eliminated the problem, the defect, you have achieved your Poka-Yoke. So now, to summarize everything, what are the benefits, or what is the conclusion of this session, or what did we learn from this session as a part of Poka-Yoke, is keep it simple, identify the problem, try to automate it, ensure that you have safety in mind, because the example of one more Poka-Yoke is the cutter, right? If you put your hand will get cut. But most of the Poka-Yoke implemented in the cutters there are sensors. So if they sense anything as a finger or anything, the cutter stops then and there. Now these are very, very simple Poka-Yoke which are in our lives. The next is every single Poka-Yoke that you do helps you to reduce the waste, helps you to improve employee attitude, helps you to increase productivity. And that's what we are talking about, building productivity mindset. So implement your Poka-Yoke, have your efficiency to 10x level, create a training program for your people, and always remember Poka-Yoke is right here.
I think that's a beautiful message you're leaving us with, Sagar. And Shilpi, thank you for your comment, and I'm happy that sessions are igniting those thoughts and Poka-Yoke in all aspects of life. Uh, I want all of you to know, and for everybody, that what we're talking about on building productivity mindset, on where we spoke about first time right, or we're talking about Poka-Yoke, it goes with the same principles what Sagar was just right now highlighting. That first look at why you want to do that. Once you've looked at why you want to do that, look at what are the best ways of eliminating or missing out, so that you don't even have to reach a point where you then get into the mitigation of it. I've Sagar, I used to be a part of collections, where we used to do credit card collections from our customers, and it used to always be very crucial, because one single error will lead us to the ombudsman, the banking ombudsman, and then going to ombudsman and always wanting to defend one case will take away the time of how much we will service 1,000 customers in the same time. So
Yes,
actually eliminating those risks at the point of where it can happen. I want to share a quick example, Sagar, on the closing note. So relating to the same collections world, where ombudsman was the governing authority for us, we always had to ensure that our customers details are verified before we even start talking about the outstanding amount. When we started this process, and I'm talking about 18, 19 years back, the dialer would pop up the customer's screen to which the customer to the number they have called. And on the screen, I will have the customer's outstanding amount, the last payment done, the places where the customer spent the money, the last communication which was there. And it was expected that the associate will first do the verification and then move on to the conversation. What we then did was and this used to be a problem, where we used to have a lot of calls which would fail. So of course we did a lot of training and coaching people, but what we did was we brought in a systemic control, where on the CRM that we were using, we built in a graphic user interface. So the minute the customer is called, only thing that will come up on the screen was the customer's name and the verifying details. Now, till the time the associate is not clicked on what information has he verified, the screen will not come up where the details about the outstanding amount and the other things are there. So that was one way which actually brought our complaints down tremendously. And at least then we were not having errors with regards to somebody not verifying the customer. So now that's a very simple example, but that's something which helped us preventing, or rather eliminating a lot of things at the root cause itself. So I wanted to share
yes.
this example to the audience before we close the call. Any closing comments from your side, Sagar, before
So closing comment is, if you have identified a area, or if you identify a process in your organization, where you're not able to implement a Poka-Yoke, write it to us and we will be happy to help you. If you have identified one area in your life which was not going right and using today's session, you have implemented some Poka-Yoke, share it with us. We will be happy to know that. Leaving on the last note, motivational talks does not guarantee first time right. Motivational talks does not guarantee Poka-Yoke, but they definitely help to ignite and they definitely help to put some people into action, which means motivational talks will not guarantee that the results or the wastages are reduced, but motivational talks will help as enablers, will act as catalyst for the processes to begin. And that's exactly is our next topic. Motivation, sorry, I'm so sorry. I did made an error. That motivation is not the next one. It's a mistake proofing. Though I've written it in my book, yes, but I missed it. So it's data intelligence, which will definitely help us in engrossing and identifying and measuring our defects. So motivation definitely helps. It's the next to the next session. So I've given you my secret. The next session is data intelligence, and then the next one is motivation. So if you really want to, find out how you can improve your systems, you need data. If you want to improve your systems, you need to measure it, and you can only measure by using data intelligence, data analysis, and that's a topic which will come up on the next Thursday. So tune in again on next Thursday at 5 p.m. where me and Kalpesh will talk about data intelligence.
Great. So stay safe,
Thank
stay
you.
connected, stay healthy. Thank you.